Hey guys, my name is Xander, and today I'm taking a look at the new Have a Nice Life album, Sea of Worry. Normally I like to give a bit more background to an artist in my videos, often talking about how I discovered them, but for here it just feels relevant to say. Have a Nice Life made Death Consciousness. You don't need me to tell you that Death Consciousness is one of the greatest albums of all time. It's a masterful concept album about, well, death consciousness, becoming conscious of the inevitability of your own demise. It's a thing that we all have to deal with at some point, and this album is a beautiful exploration of that. Track to track, every single song is gorgeous, with the vocals and guitars mixing together over a sea of reverb to bring you these beautiful melodies, with some kind of industrial production at sometimes, especially in the percussion section, that when all combined together create this luscious brand of horrific noise, which just attacks your ears, not letting you understand whether this is beautiful or horrific. And it's also catchy as hell. Re-googling Blood Rain so I could play the intro made me listen to it like 5 times. Arrowheads is a meme for a reason. I still remember where I was when I heard this album for the first time. We were at a boring family event with a friend, and he gave me his earpiece and said, "Here, this'll tide you over. You like swans? Have this." He put on the intro track, a quick one before the Eternal Worm devours Connecticut. It's something I've never truly forgotten. So, past this, they released The Unnatural World, which I have mixed feelings on. I love a lot of this album. At some points it's even more atmospheric and dark, but in another way it lost some of the specialness that the original had. Not bad by any means, I just know which one I prefer. And so with such a legendary discography, you know I had to review this one. So what did I think of Sea of Worry? Well, there is a lot to love here, so I'm going to start there. The guys have kind of taken their sound in a more indie rock direction. When I first heard the opening track, Sea of Worry, I was kind of confused actually. It's blending their harder, more horrific industrial sounds with a kind of more modern, pleasant to the ear rock sounds. Interesting to think whether indie rock copied them or they're now copying indie rock. But that is by no means ubiquitous. There's quite a bit of variety on this album. I could not recommend this album wholeheartedly to mainstream audiences, with songs like Lords of Tessahorn being the utter pools of aggressive distortion that they are. I really enjoyed this track. It's distortion to the point of just sounding like meaningless TV static, but still in a way that's resonant and nice to the ears. Well, as nice as Have a Nice Life is capable of being to the ears. It reminds me why I love Death Consciousness, and that, along with the first track, really could have been on that album. But one thing that sets this apart from the rest of their discography is the length. It's significantly shorter than their past 2 albums, which as far as I'm concerned is probably a good thing. Don't get me wrong, I'm always one for long 2-hour epics, but sometimes it's nicer to just have something a bit shorter to sink your teeth into. Now their sound combined with this makes this pretty approachable post-rock. I might even say gateway post-rock. I could comfortably recommend most of this album to a few friends, with the harsher, darker side only coming on the latter side of the album, allowing them to sort of get themselves into it. But beyond being a tool, it is still good music. Those guitars and vocals are blending as well as ever. And on top of being emotional, these melodies are still catchy as ever. So here's where the issues come in. My first one is probably with the drums and percussion. This has never been something the band has excelled at, but it seems particularly below par on this album. This is one of the things that helps give it that indie rock sound that's quite prevalent throughout, especially on the first track, but they're way too simplistic to be good. A lot of it is just straight up doo-doo-da-da, bass snare with very little fills that keep you interested. They do it sometimes just because they want to fit a bare minimum quota, but it's not something that could keep me engaged. Again, they've had this before, but on a track like Bloodhail with those ultra loud clangy snares that really beat at your brain as the track goes on, they're creating an effect. It's serving a purpose. I know I'm a drummer, but I don't inherently hate simple percussion. On some albums they can really serve to force you into the mood and melody of the music, but here they don't, and they're too distracting for me to not bring up. Another thing is an issue I've had from the start. I can't hear half of their lyrics. And at least on Have a Nice Life, the lyrics were so introspective and interesting that looking them up made it feel like it was worth it. It was more of a puzzle that you're unlocking by choosing to go the extra mile than a thing that I felt was just being kept from me, but I can't say that as much on this album. It doesn't have the strong themes that Death Consciousness does to help me drive through this and make the effort of having to Google them worth it, and it's gotten even worse. On tracks like Science Beat, as I said, the melodies and the counterpoint and the harmony and the emotion all come together so well. in the background. It's not something that's forced onto me. When I speak about emotion in music, I want to feel it like nothing else. I don't want to have a choice in this matter. But with this, it feels like I'm meeting the album more than halfway. It's like playing a horror video game where to be actually scared, you have to put in way too much effort to try and be scared. But when they're hard to hear, it allows it to just become background noise. It's no longer the emotional powerhouse it was on their previous albums. And again, this can be fine. Lords of Tessahorn does this, and I love that track because of the mood it creates. But without the themes of death consciousness, this album doesn't create the same moods and doesn't have the same excuses. What's important to understand in music is context. When you have the context of this grand journey you're putting the listener on, cryptic, hard to hear lyrics over this sea of reverb can be a good thing. But on the shorter, slightly poppier album that isn't creating the same vibes, those tactics don't work, and I find myself getting slightly bored. And of course there is the final track, which I think I have to have an opinion on. It's called Destitos, I hope I'm saying that right. And it features a 3 or 4 minute sample of some religious nut talking about hell over this slowly building up winding melody that eventually crescendos so loud it's overpowering that religious guy. Now this is doing exactly what I requested, creating a mood with the vocals and then building up past it, allowing the fact that we can't hear it to be part of the music, not a distraction from it. But this track just doesn't bring enough with it. Dynamics were my biggest issue with it. It didn't feel like a constantly switching epic. It was just something we're drifting through, which I guess is fine, but it's not death consciousness. And I don't think it's too much to ask to be more interesting when you have 7 and 13 minute long songs. I can feel myself begin to repeat now. We're gonna wrap this up. So yeah, Sea of Worry by Have a Nice Life. This is an album that's pretty difficult to think about for me. There was so much I like about it. I would like to reiterate that the title track, Sea of Worry, was amazing, and I think it could have easily been on their previous albums. And there's greatness constantly scattered throughout it, but its issues hold it back too much. It felt limited by its production choices, and not every track was amazing. And so I don't really know what to give it. At some points I was thinking, God, this is 9 out of 10 material, I'm loving this. But at other times I wanted it to end. And so I think I'm giving this a 7- out of 10. But with the complex feelings this album gives me, it's the only real rating I can give it. So yeah, that was my opinion on Sea of Worry by Have a Nice Life. Sorry if that got horribly confusing, but there you go. I am super curious to see what you guys think about this album. I can tell from a mile away this is going to be ultra divisive. And so put your thoughts below, I will be reading them. Another thing you can put down below there is any albums that you want me to review that I haven't had a chance this year. Fucking hell. I uploaded part 1 of my 2019 capture video. I have tons more album planned. There might be a part 3 if you guys request enough albums, so put anything you want down below there and I'll try and get around to as much as possible. If you enjoyed this video, I would really appreciate it if you leave a like on it. It really just helps me in the algorithms, and you can also subscribe to see more of this stuff I make. But yeah, I've been Death Consciousness Fanboy, and I'll see you guys later. I think I maybe overhyped it.